So why do we do stakeholder introductions? It's to get to know others on the call, see who's here, to build connections that maybe can lead to possible collaboration in the future. Give me something fun to do, because this is fun for me. Maybe get some new ideas for hobbies, get to spotlight somebody for 30 to 45 seconds of fame, and as always, to have some fun. So this next slide we always ask, what do you like to do to relax or unwind? And this person likes to lift weights and is into retro video games. So I, just to try to liven things up, I put a couple of my favorite retro video game names up there. These are mine, not his or hers. Some interesting facts. They wash dishes at a restaurant built from an old gold mining camp, and they worked as a handyman at an art museum. What do you like best about your job? When he got involved in EMS data, it really cracked open the wider world of EMS and its role in public health, and helped offer clues to some of the mysteries of EMS that had always baffled him on the streets. And he's been hooked ever since. How long have you been associated with EMS? Since 2001. I didn't do the math, but I think quick math says about 23 years. So any guesses? Anybody? Welcome, Mr. Sundown Staffer, or Stauffer, I'm not sure, from the Houston Fire Department. His official title is firefighter paramedic, but his unofficial title is records data guy. And here's some cool pictures. I always love the fire truck picture. It looks like two boys there. Really nice. Welcome, Sundown. We're glad you're here. I hope you're here to see this. So if you've not been introduced, I will put a link in the chat before this is over. And you too can be in the spotlight for 30 to 45 seconds. And all of your coworkers can pick on you for the rest of the day. Thank you for that. I'm also the next presenter. And I'm gonna go ahead and change the agenda so you can see it. But I am presenting today on, I've got to move this entire window over. The dashboard du jour is the next one up on the list, which is the state data quality dashboard. And how do you get to it, you say? I hope you can still see my screen. Someone give me a thumbs up if you can still see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. View reports, state reports, version 3 dashboard. And at the very bottom, last week or week before last, we did version 3 data submissions. This week, we're doing the state data quality dashboard. When you click on it, it will look something like this, except it will only show your state. I am showing everybody. So I didn't have to redact this one or create a video. I can do it live because I'm not showing any specific state's data. So what is the purpose of this dashboard? The goal is to provide state EMS data managers with a detailed dashboard using nationally submitted data that allows them to assess the completeness of their state data and the accuracy of their state data. You get detailed information about the data you're submitting to NEMSIS and the activities of EMS agencies under your purview. This dashboard provides summary information about both quality and completeness of data submitted, as well as the ability to make comparisons across agencies within a state. To this end, this dashboard contains 2 views, the data quality report and the agency comparison report. So what we're looking at right now is the data quality report. And you've got patient information, cardiac arrest, injury information, clinical times reported, and then other incident information. So there is a kind of a misnomer. So the first thing that has to do with CPR and cardiac arrest, it actually doesn't show well up here. It's under cardiac arrest. But when you export this file, which is probably what most of you will want to do, and I'll get into that in just a second, there's one small thing you're going to need to do until we get this. I think it might be a bug, I'm not sure, but I'm going to talk to our IT people about correcting this. Might need to be changed, but I'll show you that in just a second. So what does this show you? It shows you within these comparison sections, it shows by agency how many have completed this, or how well they're doing in getting it. And each one goes by different elements within from NEMSIS. So the injury information section, for instance, uses certain values within possible injury, E situation 02. That's just an example. So, of course, it loses connection in the middle of this. Because why wouldn't it? There you go. The second tab is your agency comparison. And of course, it loses connection again in the middle of it. Because why wouldn't it do that? There we go. Try that again. So this will be only within your state, and it'll start with the best performers. And as you scroll to the right, you'll go down. And now these are national, so there's a lot more of them. But each dot represents one agency. You can hover over that dot, and it'll give you the agency ID and what their actual scores are. So I don't want to hover too long because I don't want to be able to see exactly what we're doing. So you can download this view as a cross tab for an overall score ranking. This is what it'll look like. It'll be just a graph. What I want to show you, so this will just download that graph if you download this. But if you go back to the NEMSIS quality report and you go to the bottom and you download the cross tab, you'll download a file that looks like this. Except for yours will not be yellow with nothing there. It'll actually have your agency IDs there, which I've gotten rid of. So again, this is very large because I'm looking at the national, all of the agencies. But you can really easily, with just a little bit of Excel work, and if you need help with that, I'll be happy to help you, use this exact same file and come up with something that looks a lot like that. What I was talking about earlier is that first column, it exports as a 1. That's because of the way it calculates CPR and ventilation. So if on the call and it is a cardiac arrest and both CPR and ventilation are performed, you get a 1.0. If one or the other are performed, you get a 0.5. If nothing is performed, you get a 0. But it exports right there as a 1. So you'll want to edit that to make it CPR / ventilation. Unfortunately, there's no way in this export to know if you get a 0.5, which one was done and which one wasn't in this report, but you'll know. But just with just a little bit of custom formatting or conditional formatting, that exact same file looks like this. And you can see your best and worst performers. Again, your agency IDs are there. They'll be only for your state. I formatted just this little section as a table, froze the first column, and put a slicer in. So if I just want to look at CPR ventilation for those rates or cardiac arrest overall. And again, I'll do the far right, so those are the worst performers, and then the best performers go to the left. And again, overall valid times. So as a quick rundown, that is what's available in the V3 State Data Quality Dashboard. If you have any other questions or you want more information or you'd like me to run through it with you on a one-on-one basis, feel free to reach out to me or submit a help desk ticket, and I will be happy to show you exactly how I created that Excel file and explain in detail more of where these come from if we have, since we don't have a whole lot of time today. But that's it for that. And then I will share my other screen so we can go back to the agenda. And the next up is the maintenance update by Miss Jen.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. And the maintenance window this month is May 21st and May 22nd. Our IT department will be taking advantage of those days. So there will be some up and down time during those 2 days. So if you experience any issues, try again, give it an hour or so. And if you experience any issues outside of May 21st or 22nd, please let us know. If you find something that's broken, we may not know about it. John, do you want me to just go ahead and go to the next two? Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It's going to stop John's share. All right. Okay. So what you're seeing is the NEMSIS homepage. And on May 1st, we had 2 updates to some technical resources. Under the technical resources, if you go to the guides and usage page, that's where they can be found. One of them was in regards to the approaches to custom element. With the implementation of version 3.5.0, more custom elements have come out that the states are using, that the local agencies are using. And so quite a few questions came up during the transition and the implementation. So we have added some more examples and some more verbiage to pages 2, 3, and 4, kind of giving a little bit more definition, trying to give some visual displays to better explain and show for all the different ways that folks learn. If you have any more questions or there's something that you feel is missing from this guide and you need to use it, please don't hesitate to reach out, because that's how we keep improving our resources, is by you letting us know that there's some information that you need that's not included. The custom elements one can be found here under custom elements, approaches to using custom elements. And then there are also 3 additional documents for custom elements: best practices guide that gives you an idea of the steps to follow, conversations to have before you create a custom element, why it's important to reach out to the other stakeholders because somebody may have already created that. That kind of information is in the best practices guide. And then there's a flow chart and a checklist to help you through the development process when you're working on custom elements. And then the second one is the GNIS codes. And this is has a lot to do with technical parts of it, the behind the scenes. When your EMS clinicians are completing their EPCR, more than likely they are selecting something that says Rochester, right, instead of the city of Rochester. And many of the GNIS codes are in that format, where they'll say city of or township of. And the other part of it is that we had previously recommended the civil code and the populated place code. We didn't have anything beyond that. And the GNIS city codes has a much, much bigger pot to pull from. So we have extended the recommendation that's put out by the NEMSIS Technical Assistance Center to include the military codes as well as the census codes. That gives your vendors a lot larger range to pull from. And then we also put in some information that has some instances with the GNIS codes. There are city and zip combinations that do not automatically bring up a GNIS code. It's not easy. So we put in some information about that and an example of how to resolve those kinds of instances. That can also be found on our guides and usage page down under the other, and you'll see it called use of GNIS codes. And so those were updated and added on the 1st. If there are any questions, or please feel free to put it into the chat. All right, back to you, John.
All right, the next person up is Miss Monet with the monthly report and annual meeting update. So you can go ahead and share that if you like. You can share your screen with me.
Yes, thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for being on the call today. I would like to share some information with you about the monthly report, and I'll start with how you should locate the report. We have currently put the report on the NEMSIS website under View Reports, Public Reports, and then we have the NEMSIS Monthly Reports tab here. We've added the April 2022 report here, and I'll just go ahead and give you a brief overview of this report. We reformatted the structure just slightly so that we have our newest NEMSIS member highlighted here, his bio, his picture, in case you would like to say hello in person, as well as on any additional calls that we may be having, or any of the trainings that we'll be having in the near future. Take an opportunity to say hello to Mr. Kevin Nichols, who is our new program director. We've also included the state map on the first page, just as a reminder of the progress that we're making with states turning green. On the second page, we've added the information that was discussed about the VIII transition timeline. And we also have a link to the location of this information on the NEMSIS website, in addition to the additional reports that we are now making available on the NEMSIS website as it relates to the revision process. And then the rest of the report is pretty similar. We have some of our most recent publications where they are citing NEMSIS as a resource. So that information is included. The information about the data use agreements. And then we also have information about which vendors have completed compliance recently. That information is also listed in this report. If you have any questions, would like any updates included in this report, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to make those considerations for the additions to this report. The next thing I would like to talk to you about is the annual meeting. So the NEMSIS annual meeting is taking place on the week of October the 21st, and the specific dates are October the 22nd through the 25th. We have provided for your convenience the draft agenda on this website. And what I would like to do is, as we continue to reach out to presenters and have confirmations of those presenters, we'll add that information. Currently, we just have a high-level overview of the expectations for the meeting. And what I would like to do is ask for your additional input. If you feel that there are conversations that need to be had, times that you want set aside for various types of discussion, please submit those to us so that we can take those things under consideration. I'm currently confirming all of the activities that we'll have for the evenings. And so this is a living document, and we want to always do our best job to make sure that we provide an awesome, amazing experience for you with content that is meaningful for you. So please let us know what you need so that we can make sure that you have a great experience at the NEMSIS annual meeting. On this page, we also have the letter that you can use to start your travel process if you need to submit paperwork for approval to attend the meeting. We have the questions about your payment process if you want to submit a check or do ACH payment. And then we also have some information about the transportation that we'll be coordinating with. So we're trying to complete this page with all the information that you have requested. One thing I want to mention about the registration site is there was information provided about making sure that the software, the compliant software vendors know that the required days for your participation is Wednesday, October the 23rd and Thursday, October the 24th. We want to ensure that NEMSIS compliant software vendors are attending on those days. If you are an EPCR vendor or a state data manager and you will not be able to join us in person this year, we have provided information for you to attend virtually. You would simply go to this page, virtual registration, choose one of these two options, and then submit your registration. We will also verify that you are either a state data manager or belong in the EPCR agency forum. So this information has been provided for your convenience. We're trying to do the best job we can to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate. And we look forward to your questions, your suggestions, and any additional information you would like to share with us. So that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat, or you can reach out to us directly. We'll be happy to get back to you at our earliest convenience. Let me double check the chat. Yeah, I don't see anything right now, so thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Back to you, John.
Thank you. So next up is Mr. Josh Legler with 2 updates. If you want to do both at the same time, go right ahead, Josh. Feel free to share your screen.
Okay, John, thank you. Get my screen share up. I have 2 topics today. The first one is an interoperability update, and I have 2 things I want to cover in this update. First of all, the next EMS interoperability task force call is tomorrow morning from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It uses the same Zoom link as the call that you're on right now, so feel free to join us tomorrow. The topic that we will be covering on tomorrow's call is discussing the information that EMS clinicians need when they're responding to a call and treating a patient. So things like the patient's medical history, any medications they're taking, DNR or pulsed advanced directives that might be available for the patient, things like that. So that'll be a good discussion to really clarify some of the nuances of what information EMS needs to treat a patient, and maybe also, the information that they don't need, how to prioritize what's most important to them. That'll be the last of the many topics that we identified for the EMS Interoperability Task Force, which has been meeting for a little over a year now on a monthly basis. We're going to be winding down these monthly calls, and we're going to have the final monthly call on Thursday, June 13th. That's the second Thursday of the month, as usual, at the same time, same Zoom connection. In that final monthly call, we're going to have some wrap-up topics. That's going to include next steps in regards to how we can ensure that the trusted exchange framework and common agreement will support EMS's need to get hospital outcome data after the end of a call. Potential changes to future versions of the NEMSIS data standard in the e-outcomes section to better align with other healthcare standards. And the topic of getting more outcome data in the national EMS database. And on that topic, getting more outcome data in the national database, I've shared this slide many times over the past few years. In 2023, hospital outcomes were recorded on 1.4% of PCRs in the national EMS database, where a patient was treated and transported by EMS. And these are outcomes other than still a patient in the hospital. If we take those out, we get 1.5% approximately of PCRs having an ED disposition or a hospital disposition recorded. Of course, that's a very low percentage, and that's the major effort of the NEMSIS TAC, is to get this percentage to go up. We know some reasons why this percentage is low. One is that the majority of EMS agencies today still are not getting outcome data from hospitals. So obviously, they'll have nothing to send in their data to the state or to the national database. However, we do know that, probably somewhere around 10% of records nationally are probably getting hospital outcomes through various integrations that have been put in place. And so this 1.5% really could increase quite a bit with some fairly small efforts. Reasons we've heard why this percentage might be so low are that the NEMSIS TAC doesn't want resubmissions or can't handle the volume, the increased volume in the national database submission service that would create. That's a myth. The NEMSIS TAC does want resubmissions that contain outcome data. Another reason might be that states don't want those resubmissions into their state systems or can't handle the volume. So I'm going to be talking with the state data managers next week at the NASEMSO conference about that question. There's also the question of, well, when is hospital outcome data really considered complete or finalized? Usually during a patient's course of stay in the hospital, a bunch of updates come out from the hospital as the patient moves or receives procedures or changes status within the hospital. How do you decide when you've finally gotten everything that the hospital had about that encounter and can then incorporate that into the patient care report data and resend that to the state? And also there's a variety of codes or code systems that are used in hospital data that often don't quite line up or comply with the NEMSIS requirements in the e-outcome section. For example, the hospital disposition, discharge disposition might be one of the 2-digit codes that NEMSIS recognizes, or it might be some other code. Another example might be hospital procedures might use an ICD-10 PCS code, or it might use a SNOMED procedure code, which NEMSIS doesn't allow in the e-outcome section. So those are some reasons that I've heard why it's hard to get those outcome data, even if the agency is receiving it, into that data export that goes to the state and then the national database. So as I said, I'm going to be at NASEMSO next week, and we'll spend some time with the state EMS data managers talking about opportunities that they may have to help promote an increase in the presence of outcomes data in records submitted to the national database. If you're going to be at NASEMSO next week and there's something you're working on in this area or would like to work on, I would love to meet with you one-on-one and just discuss it and see how I can help or support your efforts. Also, this will come up as a topic, as I mentioned, in that wrap-up call in June for the EMS Interoperability Task Force. And we'll tackle it again there and see if we can identify, make sure we fully understand what the barriers are to increasing this number, and then identify the path forward, the resources or guidance that the NEMSIS TAC could put out that would finally make a difference in increasing this number. So that's what we've got for the interoperability update. And I'll pause here, see if there's any questions. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment. Okay, great, thank you. All right, second topic. Let me get switched over here. Okay. Okay, second topic I have. 2 weeks ago on the implementation call, I said that the NEMSIS v3 Cube was being updated to implement some of the changes that came out in NEMSIS 3.5. And that it was kind of in the midst of updating, so there was some areas where the data was actually blank at the moment. It turns out that that update finished like as I was speaking 2 weeks ago. So by about a half hour into the v3 implementation call, the update had completed. So I wanted to just give you an overview of what changed in the V3 cube a couple of weeks ago and what's available now. So the old cube had incident patient disposition, which was an element that was retired as we went to NEMSIS 3.5. So in the cube today, you will find that that dimension is gone. And these 4 new dimensions are available: unit disposition, patient evaluation / care, crew disposition, and transport disposition. So these are the NEMSIS 3.5 elements. And the question might be, well, what about all that NEMSIS 3.4 data that's already in the cube? And the answer is that that data is now being translated to the 3.5 perspective. So there are 3 areas where these translations are occurring in the NEMSIS V3 cube. The first was the primary role of the unit, and that is being translated. If the data was pre 3.5, it's being translated into the 3.5 equivalent for unit, transport, and equipment capability. Level of care of this unit is being translated up to the version 3.5 level of care provided per protocol. And incident / patient disposition is being used to translate into the 3.5 equivalent on these 4 new disposition related data elements. Let's look at that in the cube. So I've got the cube up here, and I've got these 4 new elements that are now available. So if I look, for example, at unit disposition, I'll see, for example, the vast majority are patient contact made. So data that was submitted in NEMSIS 3.4 format, there's a translation going on looking at all of the dispositions that involved having a patient, and that's being translated now to indicate patient contact made, or whatever other value it was. So you're seeing everything in this consistent 3.5 perspective. And that is the case for all 4 of these new elements. If I look, for example, at transport disposition, and of course the majority are a transport by this CMS unit. If you have any questions about the technical details of the translation from 3.4 to 3.5, then I'll refer you to the translation documentation on the NEMSIS website. That's in the technical resources menu and then mapping / translation. And you can look at the 3.4 to 3.5 translation documentation. That document, which I'm showing here, has very detailed information about how these translations occur. For example, here's the translation going from NEMSIS 3.4 incident patient disposition to NEMSIS 3.5 unit disposition. So you can see exactly which values of the old element get mapped over to which values of the new element. The reason we did this mapping in the V3 cube is because in a multidimensional cube environment, it's very tedious and sometimes just about impossible to put in a filter that says something like, incident patient disposition starts with patient, or unit disposition is patient contact made. Those kinds of criteria are just hard to set up in a cube environment. So by doing this translation, that makes it just way more convenient for someone who's just wanting some general high-level stats from the national data to be able to browse the cube effectively. So those are the updates, and we hope that that'll be helpful to you, that you'll no longer see those blanks that you were seeing that were coming from NEMSIS 3.5 data. And looking at the chat, yeah, I answered Anne's question. If there's any other questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the chat or raise your hand, and I'd be happy to answer. Okay, not seeing any. So John, I'll go back to you.
Thank you, Josh. As always, that was really insightful. So next up is Mr. Randall Eimerman with an NASEMSO update.
Hey, John, it's Randall. Can you hear me?
I can.
Well, let me start my video. I can share without the video. Just 2 announcements for everyone. First, April 26th, NASEMSO NEMSIS, NEMSIS TAC, and NHTSA's Office of EMS. We had another quarterly directors meeting. It was very informational for our state EMS directors. They get their opportunities to kind of ask some one-on-one questions, but they're also educated with a lot of the same material that you are today. We don't always go in the same amount of depth as we do here on these calls, but it really highlights some of the efforts that our data managers and our data folks are doing with our state EMS offices. And then secondly, Josh Legler had kind of mentioned it, but next week is the NASEMSO annual meeting, May 12th through the 16th in Pittsburgh. We hope to see many of you there. During this meeting, I actually wanted to highlight today that Jay Otsby, data manager from Wyoming, he does a lot of behind the scenes communication. He's been doing a lot of custom elements, but he really has kind of wrangled the data managers together over the last few years. And we'll be kind of passing the torch on to someone else. So just wanted to highlight him today, that he does a lot of communications behind the scenes with NEMSIS and the NASEMSO's Data Manager Council. So no other updates for anyone, but willing to take any questions.
I agree. Way to go, Joe. You have done a great job. Mr. Chad Hoare commented in the chat. So next up is Ben Fisher with the 2023 public release datasets update. You ready, Ben?
Yeah, yep. We are very pleased to announce that the 2023 public release dataset is now available. It is 54.1 million EMS activations in 14,000 plus EMS agencies. We're getting really close to a census. We have data from 50 states, DC, 3 territories. We have the data sets are available. You just open a help desk ticket and select request an EMS data set. And right now we're processing them as quickly as possible. If you're interested, we'll send you a link to download them. The compressed files are, depending on the file type, between like 16 and 19 gigabytes compressed, and then uncompressed, they're about 160 gigabytes in 42 relational tables. So you will need some statistical programming software for them. And then we offer file formats in SAS, Stata, and ASCII files as well. And if you have any questions about them or a project you'd like to work on with them, please let us know. We're happy to help do anything we can to support you with those or answer any questions about them. So I will stop there. And if you guys have any questions, please come off mute or type them in the chat.
I did have one question asked to me that you may want to pass along. Are we or are we not sending the USB flash drives out?
Yeah, we are not. So they're only available as a download link. That's part of our sort of new regulatory compliance posture with our authority to operate. But we have found a couple places on our website where it still mentions the USB drive. So if you find any of those, like on the request form, we're working on updating that right now. Please let us know, because we need to correct those to reflect the download process. And then it looks like, Paul, you have a question.
Yeah. Hey, Ben. I was wondering, can you guys ship the data in a CSV file?
We cannot. There are commas in some of the fields, so that we do offer it as ASCII, and it's a 3-character delimiter. So it's tilde pipe tilde. That is also the largest file size, just because it's ASCII and not one of the proprietary binary file formats. So that one I think is close. It's like 165 gigabytes, but yeah, we do offer that as one of the file formats.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Just think of it this way. It's kind of like the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, about the same size. Next up, let me close this. Sorry. Next up is Miss Jen Correa again with a 3.5.1 status update.
Hello. Yes, me again. Okay, so there's not a ton to update about for the version 3.5.1. Our IT development folks have completed almost 2 complete sprints. They have 1 more to go. So we are on target to provide a more precise timeline in June. That should be out, and we should be able to provide that to you. And then I do want to put a reminder, I've gotten a couple of questions about this in the last few minutes, or a few months about where they can find that. So I'm going to share my screen. It was being a little problematic, and hopefully now it will. Okay, good. So there's two ways to go about it. This is what the looks like when you go, and I will put the link to this. And this has all of the changes that are going to be made in version 3.5.1. And so if you are curious about some of the changes, if you're curious about what's going on, you can always review them here. Anything that's in this resolved column over here, it was either rejected outright during the vote, which means that the stakeholders all voted on it and it was not approved, or won't do. Won't do usually means there's a reason that that particular ticket was closed. It could have been duplicative, or for example, in this case here, this deprecation, there was two changes that were approved, either to deprecate the element or to adjust the way it was defined. And so deprecating, it's not going to happen. It was adjusted how it was defined. And that was done for, US CDI alignment purposes. So there's a reason if it won't do, and it was just a vote issue if it says rejected. If you go to the NEMSIS website, and remember, because I always forget this, if you click on the logo, it will always take you to the home page so you can start over when you can't find something or get lost. You go to the version 3.5.0 revision. And then you scroll on down to when will changes take place. And this beautiful page has a direct link to that JIRA page. It also has directions for exporting from the JIRA, because it's not always self-explanatory in JIRA how to download that information. So that is your V3.5.1 update for today. Are there any questions? Sorry, I was looking at, I looked at the chat and saw Ben, Jay, and Ann talking about CDs and floppy drives, which only about half of us remember. But I don't see any questions, so I'll go ahead and send it back to you, John.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is Mr. Eric Chaney with a motor vehicle crash dashboard and some other items from the Office of EMS and NHTSA.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to say for those of you we'll be seeing in Pittsburgh in the NASEMSO next week, as we talked about. Looking forward to it. Please bring any questions or comments or concerns that you have for anything NEMSIS or NHTSA to the meeting, and be prepared to discuss them. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy that meeting because I get a lot more interaction in those 2 days with people, especially face to face, than I do pretty much throughout the country over the course of meetings the rest of the year. So the other topic that I wanted to make sure I hit, and I always mention this because money is at the foremost of everything we do. If you're submitting for grants or grant funding for a bill or any one of the different grants that are available, to which NEMSIS is specifically named in as something that you can submit for, you need assistance with that, you have questions or concerns, please let us know. And please let us know, and we'll be happy to support you in any way we can, or anything that we can do to help you with background information on the project. We're happy to do that. The motor vehicle crash dashboard that's here, we're going to discuss more about that next week. We have some PowerPoint presentation information to share with you. But this is a national motor vehicle crash dashboard that we're going to be developing for all the states based on subject matter expert input from the Department of Transportation leaders. For example, the folks in bicycles talking about bicycle injuries, pedestrian struck by pedestrian experts, and then child safety seat usage and seatbelt usage by our behavioral health, behavioral folks at NHTSA. So a lot more to come on this. This will be a national dashboard that'll be built down to the individual agency level, with keys and access being given to the state EMS medical directors. I'm sorry, state EMS directors. So we'll be building it, we'll make it available. And then the state directors will have the ability to turn it off on and determine who has access to it. We are going to be doing that through a subcontract with Image Trend. So this will be one of our first national project rollouts using a specific vendor. So stand by for more on that and some more discussion on it at our meeting next week. I think there was one other thing on my mind and it just slipped it. Motor vehicle crash. Oh, for those of you, they mentioned that the 2023 data set is available. For those of you that have not gotten access, please reach out and let people know that you want it, make it available. Let people know that you work with and have worked with in the past that it's available. And if there are any questions or concerns with getting that, please let me know and we'll go from there. That's all I really have for today. I want to save everything for a lot more in-depth discussion next week, unless somebody has any questions for me. I saw some things pop up in the chat, so I'm going to check it before.
No, it was linked from Jen.
Okay.
So the next thing is to remind everybody of the public events that are coming up. So we'll have a public training on Tuesday, June 4th, between 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. That'll be by Ms. Jen and Mr. Josh Legler on correlation IDs. And which brings us to the open forum. So does anyone have anything they'd like to ask, tell us, request? Feel free to come off mute or type your comment in the chat. And for the record, I loved Oregon Trail on floppy disk on the Apple II. That was like my favorite game ever in elementary school.
Hi, John. This is Monet. I would like to ask permission to share again. I want to share about an event that's taking place next week during the NASEMSO annual meeting.
Take your books, guys. Get it signed.
Okay, can you allow me to share my screen, please?
Sure, you should be able to.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. I would just like to mention that if you are attending the NASEMSO annual meeting next week, you are aware that NASEMSO will be honoring the Freedom House Ambulance Service and the pioneers that are still living and who have contributed to the modern EMS system that we appreciate today. We currently have one event that's scheduled on Wednesday, which is the launching the honorary celebration, but we also have a community-wide celebration that's taking place on Wednesday. And this event is for the primary purpose of having the EMS community, the data managers, the EMS directors come out to the park and meet with the community folks. There are so many people in that community who are unaware of the contribution of Freedom House. And so we wanted this to be a day for everyone to celebrate Freedom House Ambulance Service. This is a flyer that I'm showing you. You can click on the QR code and I will also add a link in the chat. But on behalf of the Historic Hill Institute and the Historic District, they are still looking for sponsors. So I would love to put you in contact with Dr. Kimberly Ellis, who grew up in that community. She's leading the on-the-ground effort to help make this a very beautiful event for the community as well as the honorees. If you are interested in contacting her, you can send me a text or email or just send me some information, put your information in the chat, and I'll put you in contact with Dr. Ellis today. And again, thank you. If you are attending the event next week, please come out to this event. It's open for everyone, and we look forward to seeing you out there. Okay, thank you for letting me share that information.
I just put a link in the chat to Goodreads because that's not affiliated with any specific sales entity. But there's a really, really great book by Kevin Hazard. He's also written another great book too. But this is the story of Freedom House, and it's also the story of EMS in general. And anyone who teaches or is interested at all in EMS history, I highly recommend this book. So I'll get off that soapbox now. So anything else for the open forum? Well, our next meetings will be 11 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on May the 22nd, then June 12th, and June 26th. I'm going to share that again. And as always, this was recorded and will be available online at our YouTube channel. So feel free to refer to that if you want to see anything else again.